Irina Petrovna is making a flurry of last-minute preparations. I brought 100 young people along, she says, cadets. The candles of remembrance ceremony will last for 3 hours. We do it in memory of all those who perished during the siege of Leningrad in World War II. I ask about the cold. It doesn't bother us, she says. We're used to it. We'll stay for the fireworks. These women are looking forward to the fireworks. For a few days, St. Petersburg is taking on its Soviet name, Leningrad. The city remembers one of the greatest and deadliest episodes of World War II. The forces of Nazi Germany surrounded the city from September 1941 until January 1944. An estimated 1 million people died, nearly half of Leningrad's population. I visit one of the survivors. Bronislava Valerianova lives on the outskirts of St. Petersburg.
Bronislava Valerianovna, добрый день. Это Юра.
Hello. I brought this bouquet for you. She's been expecting me. The polite hostess makes us a pot of tea. Bronislava Valerianova is 80. She lives in a modest apartment. Even after so many years, hers is an epic story. Valerianova was 7 when the German Wehrmacht launched its 2.5-year siege. Leningrad was cut off from the outside world. And one by one, the young girl lost her family. Within months, the grandparents died of starvation, then her father, and finally her mother. All that remains are photographs and memories. Valerianova shows me a picture of her mother in happier times. She was 27 when the snapshot was taken. The war began 1 year later, and Valerianova's mother died at age 28. Her father ignored the orders of Soviet authorities to evacuate the city. His fateful decision would soon turn the 7-year-old into an orphan. She tells me that they would boil furniture paste to eat. One day the plates were on the table, but her mother didn't return from the bathroom. The girl called out, but there was no answer. She found her mother dead on the floor. After that she was alone, and soon there was no more furniture paste, so she sawed up chairs and ate the sawdust. Then there was no more wood and nothing more to eat. She tells me she wrote letters to relatives asking them to save her. The letters never arrived. After the war, Valerianova learned to be a cook. She vowed never to go hungry again. We travel to the city centre, to the area where Valerianova lived during the war. These days she can't afford to live in the historic district. Rents are too high. Her retirement pay is just enough to cover a one-room apartment outside the city. She's angered by the injustice of it all. Look at all the war memorials, she laments. There is money to build them, but not to take care of survivors. I have no reason to celebrate, she says. Someday I will die and no one will remember me. As we drive into the old part of town, memories come alive of childhood and the war. She tells me she'd love to see the family's apartment, but she's convinced they'd never let her in. The neighbours she grew up with are all dead, and the new residents would surely look at her as an alien. The address? Chernechevskaya Ulica number 5. The apartment building survived intact despite a continuous barrage of German artillery. Valerianova tells me the facade has changed little since the war. She tells me she loved living here. The children played hide and seek in the courtyard and skipped rope in the sunshine. I ask Valerianova whether she ever returned after the war's end. Yes, she replies, in 1948. It was a warm and emotional homecoming. Everything is new and different here, she says, even the doorbell. She's clearly nervous. Her heart is pounding. After a few minutes, the door opens and immediately shuts again. The new tenant is in no mood for uninvited guests. Everything's changed, she tells me. Outside, she guides me down to the Neva River. She tells me water was the one thing they had plenty of during the nearly 900-day siege. This is where people got water, she says. There were long lines here in the winter. The number of water runs per day were determined simply by how big the buckets were. Valerianova remembers that she only had a small jar and had to run up and down the stairs several times per day. She recalls that in the winter of 1942 the steps were slick with ice. No one boiled the river water, and rations amounted to 125 grams of bread per day. To survive, Valerianova gathered and ate almost anything she could to be softened with water: wallpaper glue, paper, shoe leather, tree bark and paste. Overpowered by memories of that time, Valerianova asks that I take her back home. We agree to meet again in the evening. I'll attend the commemoration ceremonies alone. In the old city centre, I encounter sandbags and barbed wire. It's an attempt to recreate the ambience of the blockade. Officials call it historic reconstruction. Military vehicles are on display, along with images of the war years as sombre music sets the tone. A city guide brings me back to the here and now. A snapshot with a soldier impersonator taken in front of an actual bus from the time period. It's proving to be a popular tourist attraction. This woman is a tourist, visiting to make sure that this historic day will not be forgotten. I ask her what she finds so important about it. She replies that the pain suffered here should never be repeated. The atmosphere here is almost carnival-like. The historic reconstruction has attracted mostly young people. The city of St. Petersburg spent nearly €6 million for the anniversary observation. Opposition leaders criticise it as wasted revenue. They say the funds should have gone to increase pensions for the survivors. I meet with City Councilman Boris Vishnevsky. He's a busy man, but he makes one thing clear. He says it's disgusting to finance a recreation of this kind. The siege led to suffering, starvation, bombs and the painful deaths of so many people, he says. The city has turned this into some kind of happy spectacle made of plastic and paper. He rejects it as tasteless and unworthy. My next question touches a nerve. I ask him if commemorations like these serve as a source of pride for modern Russians and whether it's a way to display strength and influence the world over. Vishnevsky then becomes angry. He replies that true strength can only be proven through culture, scientific achievement and education, not by historic recreations. Most citizens of St. Petersburg think differently. They say celebrations like this are important, especially to give younger generations a feel for the true horrors of war. I meet some young people on St. Petersburg's lavish Nevsky Prospect shopping boulevard. The Candles of Remembrance observation gets underway soon, beginning with a minute's silence. Usually the noise level here is ear-splitting. Now, rare quiet. Fireworks over the River Neva cap a big day. But one person hasn't attended. Bronislava Valerianovna Ivanova, survivor of the siege of Leningrad. She just can't summon the strength. Still, she has dressed up for the occasion. Perhaps her grandchildren will drop by after the fireworks are over. Until then, she says, she'll have her own celebration, watching television. This is my life, she tells me.
Как черноглазая, смела с ума.